Welcome to Psychologist Talks. In today's episode, I want to talk about why, if you're having some sort of psychotic symptom, that doesn't mean, not always, that you're going to be diagnosed or should be diagnosed with a schizophrenia spectrum related disorder. And most prominent to this is the misdiagnosis of schizoaffective disorder, people who have relegated, singular, kind of more narrowly presenting psychosis that does not meet criterion A for schizophrenia, and yet they are labeled it nonetheless because there's some other additional major mood component. But even for those not diagnosed with schizoaffective, you might be a little bit spooked of saying, hey, why do I have these symptoms? What does this mean? Is there something really foundationally awry going on inside of me? Am I going to qualify for a thought disorder? Well, let me first begin by saying there's multiple conditions where these sorts of things can show up. I'm just going to laundry list them without too much additional detail. One is trauma. It is not uncommon, as I met with people, particularly with very chronic, we're talking like extremely severe trauma growing up. We call it complex trauma these days. It is a very fracturing experience when we're talking like protracted, repeated trauma. And within that fracturing can come at the expense of reality testing. And reality testing is compromised. You can have psychotic-like and distinct psychotic symptoms such as voice hearing, seeing things in shadows out of the corner of their eyes, and those sorts of things. And that is not related to a schizophrenia-related disorder. It is related directly to trauma. And as trauma gets better, typically psychoticism can get a little bit better or remit completely. Another common condition is borderline personality disorder. Well, you're going to hear kind of a trend here: severe, protracted, not your kind of more mild, or in psychodynamic terms, neurotic cases of boredom. We're talking more severe, distinctly pathological, line up strangers on the street unethically to observe their behavior. 9 out of 10, if not 10 out of 10, are saying, hey, that person probably needs help. People, once again, can complain of very similar symptoms, some sort of derogatory internal monologue, voice hearing sort, though, not like an internal monologue alone, seeing shadows, thinking people are out to get them, etc., etc. But again, this is not schizophrenia related. And even other conditions such as depression and even bipolar disorder can occur with the comorbid psychotic symptoms. It's literally in the diagnosis. MDD severe with psychotic features, and just as well bipolar 1, part and parcel to bipolar 1, and relegated only to bipolar 1, not to bipolar 2, is the experience of psychosis, however, distinctly when they are having the manic episode, just like depression, distinctly only when they're having the depressive episode. And this is just to name a few. Substance-induced conditions, obviously under acute use or withdrawal of the substance, but even interestingly, after protracted use and then they stop using, psychoticism can remain after they're no longer using. And why does this happen with some people, but it doesn't happen with everybody who chronically uses, say, methamphetamines? Why can someone who was a chronic meth user for 10 years get out and not have any psychotic symptoms, and someone who chronically used it for 2 years get out and then they have chronic psychotic symptoms thereafter? No, I don't think we know. But the point being, just because you hear voices, just because you have kind of a delusional-esque thought process, the more paranoid-like thought process, does not mean that you're going to have a schizophrenia-related condition. There's lots of other conditions that this could technically be housed under, even if we allow ourselves to, challenge that maybe we don't have all the categories ironed out. The diagnostic manual gives us an quote-unquote other specified condition to say, well, there's some sort of psychotic symptoms. We can't attach it to bipolarity. We can't attach it to depressive episodes. We can't attach it to schizophrenia. The trauma does not appear to be distinct and acute enough, or there's not really evidence of a personality disorder, so we're going to other specify it. And that's okay. Now, the issue here, which can be disconcerting for some people, is then why the hell is it going on? And we don't know. We don't know. We understand that there's like a phenotypic sort of phenomenon going on genetically that maybe predisposes people to psychoticism, to psychotic-like experiences. But it's not simple math. It's not like if you have that phenotype, if you have that sort of genetic expression, then boom, you're going to develop a thought disorder and a schizophrenia related disorder. And even when we compare them and try to make them apples to apples, it's not the same. It is not apples to apples. It's not like, well, maybe we've got the category wrong. It's just that schizophrenia spectrum is just so wide and vast, and then we just need to like expand it exponentially, and that'll capture all the psychosis that happens. No, the issue here is that psychosis pops up for a variety of reasons, and we don't know why some people are more predisposed to it than others. We don't know. We do not understand. Can it be linked to something phenotypically, we're talking genetically, that is in the vicinity of the human-made label known as schizophrenia and schizoaffective disorder? Yeah, maybe. But it also could be something completely different, that schizophrenia represents simply a subset of this phenomenon, a more severe subset of this phenomenon. But there are other ways in which this tendency or this proneness, that there is something baked into the human condition enough for it to be statistically likely to experience these things independent of severe mental health related pathology. Again, the pathology we have labeled and created. And again, that can be a little bit disconcerting to people. But to me, I hope there's a little bit of relief in that too. That as much as we don't know, it's not black or white schizophrenia or you're fine. It's more complex than that. And so if there are severe kind of multitude of symptoms, then yeah, maybe we're talking about schizophrenia spectrum. However, if you just hear voices here and there, or there's like periods of months on end where you'll hear voices a little bit more and it's not related distinctly to a mood episode, that's the curious thing. But maybe it doesn't garner a schizophrenia diagnosis. Maybe it could be housed under another diagnosis. Or if it's not housed under those, then we just talk functionally. Talk functionally with your provider if you have one. If you have a prescriber, talk functionally with them. Because they'll often say like, well, how much does it bother you and interfere? Well, not a lot. And to me, a good psychiatrist, worth a grain of salt, will be like, well, do you really want to medicate it then? Do you want to take this kind of heavy hitting? I mean, atypical antipsychotics aren't super heavy hitting, but they have side effects and stuff. Do you really want to take this medication, or you just want to self-manage it? Right? There's so much we do not know about psychosis. So much. And so if you're worried, do get evaluated. You don't assume it's worse. Just as well, don't assume it's nothing, right? Get somebody who knows these sorts of things and can differentiate them, and don't just throw you into these nice, neat boxes as though they're objective reality, right? They're willing to get in the weeds with you and feel and figure these things out collaboratively with you. Go get it checked out, for sure. In the meantime, we'll wait for the science to catch up. We'll wait to better understand these sort of risk factors that some of us might carry more than others, as scary as that might be. If you have schizoaffective disorder, again, I encourage you to look at my episode on, if I said again, I don't know, but I encourage you to look at my episode. I talk a lot about this. Honestly, functionally, the treatment probably doesn't change too much, even if you were misdiagnosed schizoaffective disorder. But it can be refreshing sometimes for folks who think like, oh God, schizophrenia, not that it's a death sentence by any stretch of the imagination, but maybe there's a severity to the condition that does not necessarily apply to you. Maybe there's other mental health conditions, and the psychoticism should be relegated to its own separate kind of question mark surrounded diagnosis, but not schizophrenia. So I hope this has been helpful and insightful. Again, this is not diagnostic. I don't know you. I'm not trying to diagnose you, but hopefully at least thought-provoking. As always, thank you for listening and watching, and stay curious.